I'm going to say a couple of words at the beginning. So thank you very much for everybody for coming out today. My name is Shane Ryan. I'm president of the local Mill Bay Community League. I'm going to pitch the league. So we've been around since 1945. We technically own all the land that Kerry Park is on and all, things like that. A lot of the leaguers from the 1970s were essential people that have gotten Kerry Park Marina. We've also built various trails around the community. We're involved in a long-term seniors housing project right now, affordable seniors housing project. And finally, we're going to be doing a bingo night later in this year, so I'm pitching that. It should be closer to Christmas in aid of the local food bank that Michael's quite involved with. So please attend that. Keep your eye out on our socials for that. So now to the reason why we're all here. So first of all, big thanks to everyone who's out here, who came out, who wants to be informed. That's great. Absolutely essential to the democratic process. I really appreciate you folks coming out. I think that's absolutely essential. And then, of course, big thanks to the three candidates here. Okay? You folks. Not easy for people to put themselves out there, so please keep it respectful, keep all the tone of the questions. Even if you don't agree with their vision of where they want to take our community, because you can't agree with everybody, please keep it respectful, keep the tone positive, okay? As far as what we're going to do today is we're going to I'm going to pose 4 questions to them. Each one of them will have a chance to do an opening introductory statement, a chance to answer the 4 questions, and then we'll have a public questions period at the end. So please keep your questions ready for that. And I'll talk a little bit more about the public questions period when we get to that. So with all due, I'm going to jump in. Okay, so I'm going to introduce in the order that they're sitting. There's Marina Sapozhnikov from the BC Conservatives. Thank you very much, Marina. David Evans from the BC Greens. Thank you. And Lajeunesse from the BC Education. Again, thank you very much to the candidates. I know they're super busy. They're out going door to door, so I'm so thankful for them to come here today and make themselves available to answer our questions. Okay, so now I'm just going to jump into it. Should have tossed a coin to see who goes first. So I'm going to let Marina go first just because she's sitting closest to me. It's completely arbitrary, okay? Okay, so my first question relates to environmental protection, okay? So I'm going to read it off. I've just handed out the questions to the candidates about 5 minutes ago.
Don't they get a chance to introduce themselves first?
Oh yeah, of course, yeah. Sorry, Marshall. Thank you very much, Dave. Okay, so actually I'm going to start with 3-minute opening statements. Marina, would you jump in, please?
Hello, everybody. I am grateful for this community organizing this event, and I'm grateful that you took some time out of your day off coming to listen to us, and I hope you will not be disappointed. My name is Marina Sapozhnikov. I'm a candidate for an MLA for BC Conservative Party for Juan Fuca, Malahat. I was born in Ukraine, Soviet Union, and for many years, the only dream that kept me going was to get to Canada. This dream was so impossible and so beautiful that it almost hurt. It cost me more time and more effort to get to Canada than it took me to get my medical degree. My way to Canada was a tortuous one. In 1990, I managed to leave the USSR to get to Israel. I learned a new language, I confirmed my degree, and I worked there for 15 years. In 2004, I managed to get to Canada. I learned a new language, I confirmed my degree, and I work here until now. My Canadian dream was just as beautiful and precious as I imagined it. Little did I realize how fragile it was. I did not think about Soviet Union for many years, for close to 30 years, until the last few years when I started noticing familiar patterns emerging in Canada. When censorship started crawling in, when our freedom started vanishing from our life, I saw that it was time to run. The second reason for me running lies in my profession. When I started cancer patient and heart patient not being able to be treated on a timely basis. When I saw patients living in agony for years, not being able to have a spine surgery because their surgeons couldn't get an operation around time. When I saw children addicted to drugs, when I saw parents grieving their children who succumbed to drug addictions, then I knew that it was time to run. Why Conservative? Because this is the only party that makes sense. The policies this party make sense, and we are going to be better off if Conservatives form the government. The Conservatives are the only party that has strategic vision for this province, for the future of our children. When I'm a candidate, I will represent all of you, those who vote for me and those who don't. Thank you.
Thank you and good afternoon. I guess it is afternoon now. I'm pleased to be here today on Thanksgiving, and I do want to acknowledge before we go much further that I give thanks to all of the First Nations in this riding. We have 4 of them. We have the Malahat, we have the Chianu, we have the Sauk, and we have the Pachidat. We also have our neighbors, the Cowichan and the Wasamic. I express my gratitude for these people's patience, their stewardship, and their dignity as we do move towards reconciliation and the development of a modern treaty that honors this territory and protects it. And I want to say, as the BC Greens candidate, it is my hope that come the next legislative session, we have members who understand that reconciliation means more than economic opportunity. My name is David Evans. I was born and raised on Vancouver Island. I've lived here in this riding now for about 25 years. I'm a father of 3 lovely daughters. And for about 30 of the past 35 years, I've been a business owner, entrepreneur. Earlier this year, I stepped away from my current business to pursue becoming our MLA, and why on earth would I do that? I get asked that all the time, and the reason that I'm doing that is the same reason you're here today. We have elected the same kinds of people for a long time, and I am not satisfied with their quality. I want better politicians. On the stage tonight, this afternoon, you have 3 choices. On one side, you have the very personification of the status quo. The NDP will tell you that Sonia is right. David Eby says Sonia is right all the time. He actually congratulated her here in the Cowichan Valley for her hard work in opposition when she fought for a new hospital in Duncan. The NDP will say that we have shared values, the Greens and them, while they continue to cut old-growth forests. Not a shared value. They say we have shared values when they subsidize oil and gas companies during a climate crisis and while people are homeless. Not a shared value. They flip-flop on carbon taxes, they flip-flop on harm reduction when the political winds change. Not shared values. They say they won't subsidize industry, but they do. The NDP is so intertwined with industry that they actually have lobbyists bragging about how effective they are writing briefing notes to the government. That is the status quo in BC today. But worse than the status quo, frankly, is the status quo in different clothing. Worse is rhyming slogans and sound bites on social media instead of developing actual policies. John Rustad won't see interviewers. He avoids debates, and when he attends them, he makes up stories about people dying in the streets. The BC Conservative Party does not even have a platform for this election. I guess this date kind of snuck up on them. It was established 4 years ago. You can't know what the Conservatives stand for because they don't know yet. I mean, a few years ago when he was a Liberal, Rustad brought in the carbon tax. Get them drunk on power and see what happens, see what they come up with. I mean, we know they want to increase logging, even as BC's marketable primary forests are nearly gone and the secondary forests are not mature enough to cut. We know they want to increase fracking methane and building pipelines, even while the entire world is moving toward renewables. But so do the NDP. The other 2 parties here tonight, they want more of the same. They want power. They want the status quo. As an employer, as someone who wants to constantly improve my businesses and become better, more efficient, I often say to my staff, the status quo was fine for yesterday, but today we need to be better, and even better again tomorrow. The future isn't one direction. It's not this way or that way. It's ahead of us. Thank you very much.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. It's great to see so many smiling faces here. I want to thank you all for coming, and also to the organizers for hosting this event, and for my fellow competitors up here. My name is Lajeunesse, and I'm a lifelong resident of southern Vancouver Island. I'm a 3rd-generation resident. I was born and raised in Jordan River. And I have a strong connection to the people and to this place. I have many friends and relatives throughout the South Island. I have friends and relatives in Cobble Hill, Middle Bay, Shawnigan Lake, and of course all over the Wandapika region as well. The reason I'm running here is because one of the reasons is that John Horgan was a very good friend of mine and of many of us in this room, I'm sure. And when he announced that he was stepping down, I decided that we needed somebody good to replace him. In 2019, I was elected to Sioux Council and re-elected in 2022. And I've served there with commitment during the past 5 years. I met many close friends in local government from around the province. And I want to continue to work for them and with them and for the people. I'm acutely aware of what the issues are that we're facing, and I'm proud of the work that the NDP has done with regard to climate action, etc. With the Clean BC Act. It's the most aggressive climate action plan in the country. And are we done yet? No, we're not. But we will continue to work on those policies and get it right. That's about all that I have to say for now, and let's get to questions.
Okay, thank you very much, everyone. I'm going to jump in. Marina, folks have it in front of you, is Juan Fuca is known for its natural beauty and coastal environment. What specific policies would you implement to ensure the protection of local ecosystems and combat climate change in this region? So specific to this region.
Okay.
Thank you, David.
Thank you. And there are some seats up front. If anyone at the back wants to come and have a seat, there's 3 or 4 right in the front rows here. So BC is home to more biodiversity than the rest of Canada, but we're also the home to the most species at risk. With the Green Party, our goal is clear for environmental protection. We want to halt and reverse biodiversity loss while building resilience for ecosystems and the communities. Communities like Port Renfrew, like Jordan River, like Millbay and Shawnigan Lake. Now there is a lot in our policy platform about how we'll do this while maintaining strong and renewable industries, but I want to be clear, the resource industry can no longer have free rein to bulldoze biodiversity as it has done since bulldozers were invented. Interesting fun fact is that concurrent with the invention of the bulldozer, the BC government came up with a slap on the wrist. We need to prioritize ecosystem health over industrial profits. We need to recognize that over 80% of BC's GDP does not come from resources. It comes from things like tourism, tech, things that we have here in Fuca, Malahat. And while Greens propose a just transition for any displaced workers and also see a future for industry in the province, we also hope that we don't have more disasters like Mount Polly. Hopefully we won't have more dead rivers like the Jordan River just south of Sioux and Jordan River. That through a century of ecological damage, every industrial decision makes the next one easier. That river used to be one of the richest chum salmon runs on the coast. That was before those 3 dams, before the mine collapsed. Then the estuary was filtered to become a log sort. We can't maintain this. The Coke Sila is an absolute peril with fish protection orders for 3 or 4 of the past 6 years. Hopefully that won't happen again, but without the proper oversight, it probably will. Hopefully the next few generations or next few governments will recognize our natural assets are worth more as nature than as commodities. And hopefully as tourism and technology and the knowledge economy continue to grow well beyond the value of resource industries, we will prioritize these things that generate revenue for all of us, rather than prop up multinationals through subsidies in the vain hopes that they'll be loyal to the province when all the easy commodities are gone. They won't. Forestry companies are moving to the southern US. Forestry companies are moving to Georgia, to Louisiana, because the fiber grows faster and the labor is cheaper. If we are going to subsidize anything in this province, make it children, make it the homeless, and access to restored nature, not mining companies and pipelines. Make access available to tourism rather than industry. Thank you very much.
It should come as a surprise to no one that the environment is very important to us. We live in one of the most beautiful places in the world here. And as I mentioned, I grew up in Jordan River. I started my early career working in the forest industry, and the forest practices have come a long way since then. We've been working on changing things for the better. And as far as the Jordan River The mine collapse, there was a lot of things that were done incorrectly in the past. None of us were pleased about that. And having worked in the forest industry for, well, third generation forest worker, I never met a logger that didn't love trees and love the natural environment. And because we recreate in the natural environment, and it's important to all of us. And I think there's much work to be done in protecting the environment, and I'm proud of the work that the BC NDP has done in that regard with the Clean BC Act and the most aggressive climate action plan in the country, as I mentioned before. And so we will continue on that path. It's a big ship, it won't turn on a dime, so we have to work and think about the consequences of the decisions we make and work toward a better future. Thank you.
So it looks like my green opponent is not aware of BC Conservative policies because he apparently doesn't know how to use computer. So I invite everybody, if you want to look into BC Conservative's policy proposals, look in our website. There is a lot there, that some of it I'll just represent here. So except for empty words and continuing status quo that I hear from my orange candidate, we'll just talk about some specific. Conservation is a core principle of Conservative Party. When it comes to the environment, we will do at least trifold: protecting our forest, proper water management, and innovation in energy sector. So we're going to introduce controlled burns and other preventive measures to reduce wildfire risk. By focusing on selective logging, fuel load management, and diversifying tree species, the party aims to create healthier forest landscape that are more resistant to catastrophic fires. Investment in new technology and local community training to prevent and properly extinguish fires when they start. Focus on restoring fire damaged areas, including soil restoration, where the use of biochar, used biosolids, is proved invaluable. Increasing the use of diverse species, especially deciduous trees, to improve resilience of the forest to the fire. Stopping harmful practices like aerial glyphosate spraying. The goal is to restore BC's forests to natural, healthy states, benefiting both environment and the communities that depend on them. The other prong of our management is water management. We are encouraging conservation of water that taken from lakes or rivers for agricultural, industrial, and domestic purposes. Natural dams and lakes act as buffers to any quick diversion of water, slowing down and holding it on the land. Artificial dams and reservoirs found at Souk Lake and Gold Stream stop and hold the water from all the water distributed at CRD in the CRD area. Dams can also prevent sudden flooding events. We are going to encourage community management of watershed when feasible. There is a need for more balanced and nuanced approach when some businesses can be more flexible with their water demands and some have more urgent needs, like chicken farms that need water all the time. The third prong of our approach is energy. BC Conservatives are also committed to clean energy and moving away from fossil fuels. Currently, 70% of BC energy is still derived from oil and gas. Solar and wind, after decades of investment, still give us less than 55%. 16% is electricity. In our quest for innovation, BC Conservative Party will invest in most advanced new energy sources to make BC energy independent and reduce the emissions. We consider all types of energy, including tidal, geothermal, hydrogen, and nuclear. Thank you.
One minute. Senate, there's a lot to say. First of all, I'm pleased that the Conservative government will ground rather than just in the air. We all in this riding get our water from groundwater or wells, and we don't really want glyphosate in there. Talking about conservation, the Conservatives, it is an ironic name, saying that they want to set aside 20 million hectares of forest. The thing is, that's the 20 million hectares that the industry does not want. They're already leaving because it's wood not worth managing. Regarding water management, I mean, we've got a few generations of water management that put the Coxsackie River in such peril. I really struggle to see how the status quo parties, either of them, no matter what they call themselves on the right or the NDP, will change their practices when industry is the one calling the shots. Nuclear energy. You know, the thing about energy independence is it's sort of like having your fridge full of a Christmas dinner every single day of the year. We have a tied grid. We buy energy from California, they buy energy from us. Small nuclear reactors, people talk about that sometimes, they currently don't exist. They might in 10 years, but I tell you what, in a few months, we could have renewables that would rival the amount of energy we need right now. The country of Pakistan, in 6 months, installed 13 gigawatts of solar power. Pakistan. It took us 9 years to build Site C down. Thank you.
Thank you. So I grew up on spring water, and I realized the importance of healthy drinking water for people. I've been on the CRB Water Commission for the last 2 years as the representative from our local government in Zug. And water is critically important to us. I know that most of the area in the Juan Fuca relies on groundwater or well water, and as do you in this part of the region. And it's something that we need to look after. In terms of environment, of course, the environment is critical to our survival, and we need to take care of it, which we will do. We can't do anything though without close consultation with our First Nations and Indigenous partners, and that's why the BC NDP is committed to the principles in UNDRA, which is the United Nations Declaration of the Rights of Indigenous Peoples.
Mr. Evans keeps forgetting that we're not in Pakistan. I already reminded him once, but it doesn't seem working. So we don't have the same solar energy that Pakistan does. We're not on the equator and nowhere near it. So solar energy, after subsidizing it for decades, still we get less than 0.1% of our energy supply. That's an unfortunate fact. So without nuclear energy, we will not be able to go ahead and have an abundant amount of energy in this province. We don't have SMRs today, but if we don't start talking about it, and if we don't unban the nuclear energy in this province, which is banned by NDP, we will never be able to move along. And we need to start doing this. We can't rely on fossil fuels just for one simple thing. There's not enough of it. Thank you.
Next microphone now to Dana. Dana, you'll have the first chance to answer this question. Okay, so this next question revolves around affordable housing. So what is your plan to address affordable housing in the Juan Fuca Malahat riding? Thank you.
To have a roof over our heads, no matter where we are in life. And I think as we all know, the NDP has a very strong commitment to providing enough housing for the people who are moving here, as well as for the people who are already here. We need a variety of housing types, and we need to densify housing in areas where the infrastructure exists, and that is what we're committed to doing. And I'm proud of the fact that we're doing that. There are people moving to this province at a rate of about 100,000 per year. And we also have cities or towns in the interior that are disappearing due to wildfires, and so we need to be ready to accommodate those people as well. We're all at risk of climate issues and climate change, and we need to make room for people who want to come to this province. We've always been a welcoming place, and we will continue to do so. We need to find the balance and provide a variety of housing types to welcome people with different income levels and just people from across the spectrum, and that's what we intend to do. Thank you.
Marina, 3 minutes, what's the same?
The NDP talks about building homes, but their policies have made it impossible. Under NDP, the housing starts are collapsing and bureaucratic delays are preventing necessary development. NDP increased construction costs by 30 to 40% through radical step code policies and net zero mandate, which he said also result in cookie cutter homes with fewer windows and reduced livability. Our Green candidate doesn't seem to be aware of the economy and economical principles, so apparently he thinks that money works on the trees, where it grows on the trees. The Conservatives have very robust and specific economic policy and housing policy. To begin with, we are going to introduce immediate tax relief starting in budget 2026 with a rusted rebate. We'll remove BC income taxes from $3,000 per month of housing costs, including rent, mortgage interest, and strata fees, offering significant relief to the families. We'll increase the approval homes in months, not years, which now adds immense amount of money for the cost of the housing. And we're planning to approve the houses proactive approval. So the people don't have surprises that all of a sudden they have to rezone the existing houses. And we are introducing the trust of presumption of compliance policy, requiring city to trust certified and regulated professionals like engineers and architects to do their job without unnecessary bureaucratic interference. We also support transit-oriented communities. The Conservative Party is committed to building complete communities near transit, and we will amend Bill 47, transit-oriented areas, that ensure that new communities have space for grocery stores, small businesses, and services within walking distance of homes.
10 seconds.
We will end overregulation by activist city planners who have inflated housing costs through endless design reviews and micromanagement that kills projects.
You know, proactive approval sounds a lot like the NDP's plan to have the houses ready to go off the shelf, and building near transit, that also sounds like the NDP, so it's great that you guys have some agreement. I really appreciate that. Affordable housing, there is so much that can be done. If you've noticed, the NDP has actually stopped using the word affordable. They use the word attainable, which is interesting. It seems psychological. It's like they're trying to lower the expectations. Firstly, I think we need to recognize that for-profit housing industry will not build below market housing. We have to stop having that magical thinking. Releasing, what was the phrase? Releasing the power of the private sector. That's what got us here. That's what got us real estate investment trust. That's what got us land speculation. Releasing the power of the private sector will not build below market housing. Now remember, those real estate investment trusts, they're the ones who are squeezing renters. We've seen a 20% rise in rental costs in 2 years in BC. The government definitely needs to play a role in affordable housing, and here's what the BC Greens propose. We propose to start province-wide vacancy control. Now there are tons of good mom and pop landlords who don't gouge their tenants, but the REITs, they're the ones who do. They bought 60%, 59% of the rental market that's been sold in BC in the past 20 years have gone to REITs. That means that those rents are going to shareholder profits outside of BC.
Yeah.
So we're going to build 26,000 below market homes.
5 seconds.
5 seconds?
Yeah.
I thought I had 3 minutes.
Was it 3 minutes?
Yeah, 3 minutes.
No, I understand that, but it
This isn't it.
should be 3 minutes. Mike.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
Apologies.
And 2 more.
So sorry, David.
How can I work with this? So yeah, we plan to build 26,000 below market homes annually, and we're going to do that. We will do that through nattering in the background. We'll work with co-ops and nonprofits to provide grants or loan access, whatever it takes to manage these new homes. And of course, this won't be cheap, this will cost money. But you need to remember that a homeless person doesn't contribute to the economy. Someone who's living in a house has security. They're that much closer to the straight and narrow, that much closer to holding a job, to gaining security, to giving back to the community. BC should really be the best place to live, not the best place to own a rental property.
So during my time in local government, it's frustrated me a little bit that every time we talk about affordable housing, everybody automatically thinks rental. And one of the policies in the new PCNDP platform will allow people a pathway toward home ownership, which I think is very important because we can start to allow young people a pathway toward home ownership and to build some equity to secure their future. As my generation was lucky enough to have lower housing costs, and we were able to purchase homes and start to build some equity, which sets us in a better place for the future. So this is one of the key areas that I think I'm very proud to be working on. Thank you.
So the only thing that actually made sense from my green candidate is that he said that whatever we need to do costs money. So one thing that he did mention is where we're going to get this money from, and this makes the whole difference between pipe dream and a plan. And vilifying the developers and people that actually build houses doesn't make houses built. Somebody has to build them. Thank you very much. I've seen your green book. Thank you.
We're very proud. We were the first party here to have a costed platform. A costed platform. That means all the costs are accounted for, the budgets are balanced. It's right there. There's actually some copies on the back table. Feel free to grab one or to check one out, bcgreens.ca. I would love it if you look at that really inspirational document. I'm very proud to be part of it. I agree with Dana that rental housing need not be the only way of affordable housing. But these days it looks like the only potential way it will happen. And there are great examples of this. We don't need to own our homes to be proud of our homes. So Vienna, Singapore, great examples of cities that have the majority of their tenants living in the majority of the residents living in rental properties. There's no stigma, and they're pegged at 20% of their income. Can you imagine 20% of your income going to your rent rather than 30 or 40 or 60%? Thanks.
Next question is on transportation infrastructure. Okay, you'll have 3 minutes to answer it. So, how would you improve public transportation and road infrastructure for residents of the Fuca, Malahat? Thank you.
Who's first?
Marina is first.
So the NDP approach has been about bottlenecks, and their biggest thing is how to get people out of the roads and stop driving. After 7 years of NDP, aging infrastructure and inadequate public transit are dragging down daily life and our economy. What we see in Souk on Highway 14, what we see in Malahat, people spending hours in traffic jams. How much does it add to our emission? Nobody even tried to measure. We need to think about alternative solution to the infrastructure, and we can do it at trifold. We will never implement the road pricing or tolls as David continues to mislead the public about our plans for road tolls and road taxes. Public transit development has been neglected while demand soared. The number of buses will be increased. We're proposing to create new connectors. We will consider regional light rail train for the South Island where economically feasible. It will reduce the pressure to Malahat and Highway 14 and Souk. For the public transit to be reliable, we need reliable funding. We're looking ahead for the further increase in population on the island and planning strategically to be prepared. We'll build the infrastructure we need to unlock the potential of this purpose. Under Conservative, the infrastructure will finally become a priority, ensuring that British Columbians can move freely. Specifically for South Island, we're considering all the options of streamlining public transit, including looking into the option of the trail, and we absolutely need to increase ferries. Many of you are painfully aware how much time you need to wait for the Brentwood ferry, that could save enormous amount of commute and take pressure from the Malahat. Especially is properly connected with buses on both sides. Another addition to the transportation that we are going to develop ferry service is the idea that actually ferries are going to be built in BC. and bus, ferry, car, and hopefully train together. The timing will be cut in to a fraction, and we'll be able to move from bus and ferry
Thank you.
and backwards.
Thanks. There's actually a lot to agree with there, Marina. I agree with you on we need new ideas for transit. I agree with we need new routes for buses. I agree with the idea of LRT. That would be amazing. New routes across the province. Yeah, there's a lot there that I agree with. And I think that's really important to note is that we do have common ground. We're not all divisive. It's not all about fighting. There's a lot to Transportation, though, is one of the top 3 costs for families. It's typically number 1 is always housing. Number 2 or 3 are transportation and food. If you live in a city, it's typically food. If you live rurally like we do, it's usually transportation. So there are solutions for that. We do need more frequent and free transit and fast transit across the province. Not just here on the South Island, but everywhere, the Highway of Tears. Wherever those bus routes have gone since Greyhound left, that's where we need to get them back, and more. And we also need to talk about inter-regional transit. Here in the South Island, the CRD and the CBRD, they're not connected. We're the same distance from Victoria right now as I am in Souk at home. But the Souk route has over 40 buses a day. Across the Malahat, it's as many as 6. We need to talk about why those 2 transit systems are not linked together. It does not make any sense. Now that we're one riding, we can have that conversation. We need to recognize that mode shifting from single occupancy vehicles. I mean, if transportation is your 3rd largest or 2nd largest cost in your family, wouldn't it be great if you didn't have to spend that money on a car? Honestly, there are so many options around. We've got the E&M corner. Warren, I see you in the corner over there. We need to preserve that for future use, whether it's a transportation corridor of any sort, whether it's train, whether it's trail, whatever it is, we need to secure that corridor. But that's going to require government conversation at all levels. Indigenous, federal, the MLA, municipal, regional, everyone's got to get together. We know the public will is there. It's the political will that we lack. BC's investing $5 billion in SkyTrain out to Langley. But Vancouver Island is about it's just under 20% of the province's population. It would not be unreasonable to expect a similar investment here on the island, $1 billion. I mean, yes, the money has to come from somewhere, but would it not be unrealistic to suggest that we get some kind of infrastructure? Whether that's LRT in the CRD, whether that's train, whether that's more buses, we just need infrastructure. Another thing to note is that induced demand is a thing. It absolutely is. If you're sitting in traffic and there's a bus idling in front of you, you'll never consider taking the bus. But if there's a bus passing on the right-hand lane, all of a sudden you'll think, that's a good idea. And maybe you can't take it all the time, and maybe we all can't take it. But if 20% more of us did, it would make things better for all of us. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah, transportation is an issue for all of us here on the South Island. In Souk, the area where I live, there's one road in, one road out, and we have a similar situation here with Malahat. And we need to look at different options for transportation and to try and create a mode shift to get people out of their cars. In my lifetime, I've been here 61 years, and the only times there's been any significant investment in infrastructure is when the NDP has been in power. The Inland Island Highway, that was done by the NDP. All of the major infrastructure investments on the island have been while the NDP has been in power. And I intend to continue that, to work towards solutions to get people around. And another part of this, another important part of this is economic development. Since the sort of the downfall of the resource-based industries that our communities have relied on since I was a kid, we haven't really had enough economic development to get people working closer to where they live and get them off the roads and closer to families. And I've been involved with the South Island Prosperity Partnership for several years, and as well as the Island Coastal Economic Trust. And these are organizations that I wish to continue to support and to help get better, good paying jobs closer to where people live so we don't have to commute outside of our communities every day. So that's another very important part to this. And yeah, I'll leave it at that.
It seems that we are on the same page on this topic, so I just don't have any problem.
No worries, okay.
Never give up 60 seconds on the mic. Dana, I appreciate that you acknowledge that the NDP has provided infrastructure investment on the island. When was Glenn Clark a premier? Was that 1890 or was that 1990 when we got the Inland Island Highway? You're right though, NDP has provided infrastructure. They do love their mega projects. I also appreciate your acknowledgement of the downfall of the resource industries and the fact that we need economic development. And I want to be clear that governments, as far as economic development goes, what we can provide as government is predictability. People won't invest in unpredictability. And when your staff can't get to work, that's unpredictable. That works against economic development. Thanks.
Yes, as I mentioned, multimodal transportation is important, and we need to increase bus service throughout the region. I was at an event in View Royal a month and a half ago or so with the Minister of Transportation and Infrastructure, where they're building bus priority lanes between View Royal and Victoria, which is great. I know it's not here, but we need to look at options like that for this area as well to help people move between communities, because we're all part of the same region and we need to be able to move about the region freely. Thank you.
For this next and final question of the three prepared questions, I'm going to have David answer this. So you have 3 minutes, David.
Thank you.
So the question is, how would you ensure better access to healthcare for all residents in this district? Thank you very much.
Yeah, I appreciate the question. Thank you very much. Healthcare, right? The biggest spend in the economy, I think, in BC. Now, the NDP is very proud of the fact that they're at record spending in healthcare. We've hit $13.4 billion annually. It's a lot of money. And it's an extra $784 per person annually in the province. That is a lot of money. Now, you probably heard Sonia's comment on the debate. There's nothing that another VP and 7 project managers can't fix when it comes to an NDP problem. It's a great line, but it is true. BC's healthcare industry has more managers than the entire German healthcare system, and they've got 84 million people. So throwing money at the problem, hiring more administrators is probably not the solution. Top-heavy bureaucracies are not the solution. Sending people to other jurisdictions for medical procedures, also not a long-term solution. A two-tiered healthcare system? No, I prefer to believe that we're equal. Full stop. This is where we need to reduce duplication of administration functions by putting multiple healthcare professionals under one roof. The BC Greens call this the dogwood model. It's based on Dr. Jane Philpott. You might remember Dr. Philpott. She left the BC Liberal Cabinet, the Federal Liberal Cabinet during the SNC-Lavalin affair, back when politicians had integrity. The idea of the dogwood model is that patients go to one place. They have access to a variety of professional care, from nurse practitioners to GPs to dietitians, nutritionists, physiotherapists, lab work, all managed by the government. Utilities, leases managed by the government. We have enough managers, believe me, they can slide into this job pretty readily. Just imagine if your computer systems work together. It is possible. Dana will tell you that John Horgan's last promise to the town of Fuca, where we both live, was a healthcare center. So even the NDP knows this is the solution. Why won't they do anything about it? Why do they keep increasing the deficit and hiring VPs? BC, you might not know, has the highest ratio of doctors to patients in the country. 274 doctors for every 100,000 patients. But doctors in BC say that they spend up to 30% of their time managing bureaucracy. I'm sure you can back me up on that.
1 minute.
Another thing, a couple of decades ago, BC reduced the number of medical student spaces in the province for training nurses and doctors. Now, the NDP has finally recognized the error and they've turned that around, but is there any reason that we are not training more doctors than we need? Is that not a knowledge economy opportunity? The future isn't good ideas wherever they come from, but the future lies ahead of us, not backwards, into things that we tried and haven't worked out. Thank you.
So healthcare obviously is an important issue, and I personally have a lot of experience in dealing with our healthcare system. 35 years ago, I had an accident, and that's why I'm in this chair right now. So I spent the better part of 6 months in hospital and rehab, and I have a deep appreciation for the work that our healthcare workers do. And the BC NDP has committed to building a new training facility at SFU in Surrey, and training more doctors and nurse practitioners and medical professionals at UBC as well. With the Health Connect registry, the intent is to have everyone in this province connected with a family doctor or nurse practitioner by the end of 2025. There's a lot of work being done. There's more to do, obviously, but we are working towards solutions for the healthcare crisis. What else? I'll save this for rebuttal. Thanks.
So Mr. Evans saved me some time to explain how bad the situation in the province is. So the only thing I need to explain is how we're going to deal with this, because what he's suggesting is to rearrange the same resources that we already don't have. And as usual, he doesn't explain how we're going to pay for it. So what we're going to propose is actually brilliant, and it's simple. What we're going to do is to put money to the front lines. And how are we going to do that? We propose the universal health care for everyone under the single payer system. So we do not create a double tier system. So the money follows the patient. The funds will be distributed through activity-based model. In other words, the facilities will be paid for the number of patients treated or procedures performed. This model will incentivize the hospitals and other facilities to treat as many patients as possible. This approach has been implemented throughout the whole Europe and works very well. It has been proven to work well, and it slashes waiting times. There is another initiative that we are proposing is wait time guarantee, which does imply that if you cannot get timely treatment in this province, like in a situation when the patient has cancer or a heart problem, they will be able to get treatment in the other province if necessary, and the province is going to pay for it. There is no cost to the patient. We will also introduce zero tolerance policy on illicit drug use in hospitals by increasing securities. At present, up to 75% of nurses report physical or verbal abuse at their workplace. That's not the way to maintain a workforce on a workplace. We will also increase the number of healthcare providers trained in the province and expedite the process of certification for internationally trained healthcare providers. I worked at the clinic with 2 doctors who has 2 wives who are in Canada for 5 and 8 years, and still both of them sit at home and do nothing because they cannot confirm their credentials. Our plan to support seniors will include improving home care services for seniors, tax credit for family caregivers. We are planning to deliver up to 5,000 long-term care beds by 2030, cover the cost of devices like glasses and hearing aids, streamline dementia care for seniors, and eliminate daily hospice care charges. As part of our policies for mental health disorders, we support reopening of mental health facilities.
10 seconds. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Actually, a lot of what Marina said, again, I agree with it. A lot of it sounds super socialist with offering classes and things like that, so I'm all behind sharing things with people who need it. I feel very lucky that I've not had the same experience with the healthcare system as my colleague Dana has. I'm very glad that our system is working very well when you needed it. And I hope it works well for all of us when we need it. We do have the resources in BC. Like I just said, we have the highest ratio of doctors to patients in the country. We just aren't applying that labor and that skill in the right place, in the right way. As far as getting 93 health hubs up across the province, I mean, if you think we can build BC ferries here, then we can certainly build medical labs. I mean, it seems like a lack of faith in the people in the province who want to make healthcare better. We all want a better healthcare system. Everyone in this room, if I say, do you want better healthcare, no one's going to shake their head. So we need to have faith in what we can do. We've proven that it can be done. There are community health centers that work. Getting a few more of them across the province is the goal. Thank you.
So a couple of weeks ago, I toured the site of the new Cowichan Valley Hospital in Duncan with David Eby, and it's coming along nicely. And it's investments like that bring healthcare closer to where people live that will go a long way towards solving the crisis. And in terms of the community comprehensive healthcare center proposed in Fuca, I can't speak to the reasons that that isn't under construction yet, but we're working with the private sector and BC Builds to get it done. And once it's done, I intend, as your MLA, to make sure that it is serviced and that promise is kept. I'm not convinced that under my opponent's leadership that will ever come to fruition. Thank you.
So I believe there's one more rebuttal. Marina?
Neither of my opponents offer any solutions. That's pretty much it. The only solution is when money starts following the patient and people that are in the system, this is how problem is getting solved. And it seems that in the whole building, there is one person that believes, or maybe two, that believe the healthcare system works well. And this is my green opponent. Nobody else seems to be. Can you raise the hand who thinks that our health system works well in this, please? Okay. We have a couple people there. Awesome. Actually, by the way, the people that sit in the people that are in the system are awesome people. Unfortunately, those people that are already in the system cannot even work properly. I spend half of my time trying to advocate to my patients to open the bottlenecks for them, and that's not acceptable. If we just implement our system and reduce bureaucracy, we can free up to 55 million hours in this province alone to be able to treat more patients.
Okay. This is fantastic. Thank you so much for answering all my questions. So now I'm going to open up to the audience. Okay. If you've got a question, please come up, form a line. I think we'll get through about 10 questions. Okay.